BIRRARUNG How Barak Got His Act Together by Jim Poulter. William Barak is one of the most famous and revered Aboriginal people in Australia. He was the paramount leader of the Kulin people at Corranderk Aboriginal Reserve at Hillsville from 1875 until his death in 1903. He was also a painter, singer, storyteller and diplomat, and was rightfully feted by visiting European royalty as our local Aboriginal royalty. Barak was born at Brushy Creek in 1823. His father, BY JIM, was the headman of the BIRRARUNG. That Barak ultimately succeeded his father in this role does not indicate any hereditary right of succession in Aboriginal society. Leadership was gained solely on merit and through the twin tests of knowledge and character. It is likely he was identified as a gifted child and then assiduously groomed for leadership. It was also common for boys or girls of special ability to be initiated into adulthood a little earlier than normal. It can therefore be safely assumed that Barak was initiated at age 11, around November 1834, and that this was probably at Anyalong, Hanging Rock, which was a key male initiation site for the BIRRARUNG. Less than a year later, in June 1835, Barak was present at the historic meeting with John Batman on the Plenty River at Greensborough. A year later, in August 1836, Barak's father, BY JIM, died of the common cold. His body was bound in the traditional knees under the chin position, sheeted in bark and buried at the junction of the Merry Creek and Yarra River. Barak's uncle, Billy Bellery, was then invited to assume tribal leadership. 3 years later, in late 1839, Barak's cousin, Wonga, was at age 18 elevated into trainee eldership. However, Wonga was then badly injured and for a while it was feared he might die. The then 16-year-old Barak was therefore inducted into trainee eldership as a ready replacement for Wonga. This ceremony at the Botanic Gardens campsite was witnessed by the Aboriginal protector, William Thomas. Historians have since wrongly concluded that this was Barak's initiation into adulthood. But this had occurred 5 years previously, and Barak had the keloid scars to prove it. In 1840, Governor Latrobe ordered William Thomas to get Aboriginal people out of Melbourne, and a reserve was established at Niri Warren near Dandenong. Then, in 1842, a native police force was established and co-located within the reserve. The area has forever after been known as the Police Paddocks. Headman Billy Bellery at first supported the idea and encouraged a number of young Aboriginal men to join the native police, including the now 18-year-old Barak. The theory was that the young men would learn skills and discipline that would help them adapt to the new social order. Unfortunately, they also soon learnt the well-established police practice of drinking heavily at the end of the day. However, an ulterior motive of the government soon became apparent when the native police were deployed against their own people in punitive expeditions to the west, north and east of the colony. When Billy Bellery learned in November 1843 that the native police had been involved in a massacre of 17 Aboriginal people at Portland, he withdrew his patronage. However, Barak remained with the native police force until it was disbanded in early 1853. By this time, Wonga had become headman and had gained regular work for his people at Wonga Park. The now 29-year-old Barak had, however, fallen down the pecking order considerably due to having continued with the native police and his continuing immoderate drinking. However, the arrival at Wonga Park of the young lay preacher John Green proved to be a catalyst for Barak's change. On one occasion, Barak had imbibed a little too much and mislaid his spears. He accused a Gunai man, Punty, of stealing his spears, which Punty denied. Barak then crept up behind Punty, cut a lock of his hair and threatened to use the hair to put a spell on Punty. When the two men started fighting, Green intervened, took Punty's hair, cut a lock of his own hair and gave it to Barak. Green then challenged Barak to put a spell on him instead. It proved to be a turning point in Barak's life, and although Barak did not become a teetotaler, he only drank moderately from then on. It was also from that point on that Barak rehabilitated his name and tribal standing. By the time Coranderrk was established in 1863, the now 40-year-old Barak was the number 2 man to Wonga. Then, as Wonga's health declined from tuberculosis over the next decade, Barak increasingly spoke with his voice. About Jim. Jim is a local historian with an interest in Aboriginal history and culture.